Good morning, folks. This is Jen Espinosa-Goswami joining you live from my home, my biz page, Be Weightless. And I wanted to hop on because a conversation came up with one of my clients in my Let It Go group health coaching program, which is in its final legs right now. I think we're halfway through this round of the program. And she really brought up an interesting point and of how my program has helped her shift her mindset around food. And I really wanted to address this because I feel that this is something that a lot of people I talk to might struggle with, and give you an idea of how working with a coach, in particular my programs, will help you push past some of the challenges you've had in terms of how you eat and your feelings around food. So this came up and she said, it's not that I feel deprived, and I've been working with this client for several months now, and she's experienced amazing results. By that, I mean she's 20 pounds down, which is a great thing, right? Not everyone I work with has a weight goal, but that is a significant amount of weight. And she shared with me that she doesn't feel deprived. And she didn't just share this with me, she shared it with some other clients on the call. So, she was very comfortable sharing this in a more public format, and I just thought I would bring it out. She said that she doesn't feel deprived while working with me. And I know a lot of people feel this sense of, as soon as I start a health program or as soon as I recommit to my health, I'm going to feel deprived. In fact, I can't tell you how many people I talk to. They say, well, I can't get started with you right now because I have a vacation coming up and I want to enjoy myself on vacation. So there's that implication that if you're on a health program, you cannot enjoy yourself anymore. You have to start depriving yourself. And that is a contradiction when it comes to what you want to appreciate during vacation time, right? You want to hit the beach, you want to do whatever you want to do, right? You want to relax, you don't want to feel deprived. So it's interesting how people kind of schedule their lives around their vacations because they feel like they can't go on vacation and not feel deprived if they're on a health program. And so this client of mine, she said, well, I don't feel deprived, which is great because that's the cornerstone of all of my programs and how I personally approach weight loss or health is you shouldn't ever feel like you're depriving yourself. She said, I don't feel deprived, but I have a diminished desire for eating certain things and for eating certain quantities of food. And I thought that was really telling because as you shift your habits over time, you will feel less of a push and a pull towards those things that were maybe unconscious behaviors for you, but now just don't serve your needs, and you no longer feel that desire to do those things. So let's talk a little bit about desire, because, and I don't mean intimate desire and those sorts of things. That's a topic for another day. We won't get into those things today, but let's talk about desire when it comes to food, because this is one of the top things that comes up with clients is, I really want to enjoy that cupcake on my birthday. I really want to go drinking with my friends when I feel like it. There's that desire to do things that may or may not serve our best goals when it comes to our bodies. Obviously, you can't eat cupcakes all day long and still reach your goals, which we talk a lot about balance in the program as well. So I'm not saying that you can't ever have those things. I certainly do enjoy cupcakes and cheesecake and things like that. But the real goal of any sort of health program is not to eliminate things from your life. It's to diminish the desire for certain things that don't take you where you want to go physically. Not all the time, but some of the time, 80% of the time perhaps. So let's talk about desire in general and what creates desire in us for certain things. And we're talking most food today. We're not going to talk about desire in other ways because that's going to be a very long topic, and I'm sure you don't have more than 15 or 20 minutes to devote to watching me today. By the way, if you're watching this live, make sure to say hi so I can say hi back, and just so I know who's watching me, because I can't tell unless you comment. If you feel so inclined, feel free to share this to your timeline, even if you're watching the replay. All of your shares mean that more people see this video, and that way I can serve more people. So it's up to you. video, whether you want to share the word or not. But if this has provided value to you or continues to provide value to you, please do share it. So what goes into desire when it comes to food? I was thinking about this the other day, and to some extent, there's that feeling of illicitness, right? Like you should or shouldn't do it. And usually because it has a lot of calories or it has been known to cause pimples. I've got quite a few pimples going on over here. There's this feeling of temptation. And typically the foods that tempt us are the foods that are high in sugar, high in fat, or high in fat and sugar, such as a donut. We know that those things are temptations because there's that feeling of, well, people who are good and who eat healthy don't eat those kinds of things. So there's that feeling of, oops, I'm being bad by doing these things, right? There's a good and a bad side of it. So that feeling of illicitness, and that creates desire in you, because who doesn't like to do things that they're not supposed to do sometimes? I'm kind of a rebel in that way. If someone tells me to do something or not to do something, I'm probably going to do the opposite because I don't like to be told what to do. So there's some extent, that feeling when it comes to foods we desire. And we don't tend to desire the foods that are considered healthy or good for us. Like very few of us are like, I really desire a piece of broccoli right now, or I really desire to have some kale. Like those are not the types of foods that comes up when we think of desire, because there's not that feeling of it's bad for you, or it's going to set you back, or it's going to be, there's no value judgment tied to certain foods. And we don't tend to desire the foods that are super good for us. It's very atypical. If you are watching this and you desire foods that are considered to be healthy, I would like to hear from you. And do you fight that desire at all? I'd really be curious to hear what your thoughts are on that. So first of all, desire comes from the idea that it's illicit. It's a bad thing. It's the devil on my shoulder told me to do it, that sort of thing. So there's a value judgment there. What else creates desire? I mentioned this briefly before, but when people tell you not to. And that's what most people I connect with on phone calls, they talk about. They feel like I'm going to wave my finger in their face and say, no, you can't do that. Oh, no, I can't believe you polished off that whole cupcake. I can't believe you ate this big bar of chocolate. That's not the type of health coaching I do. This is what you might see on TV, like reality TV, where they've got a smorgasbord of food in front of them. I'm thinking like Biggest Loser and those types of things, or My 600-Pound Life or things like that, where you'll see a big table of all these tempting, desirable foods. And then you'll see a trainer who's extremely fit and probably hasn't touched those types of foods in decades, will basically say, you can't do that, or no, you're stronger than this, or whether that trainer takes on a positive spin on it or a negative spin on it, as in, if you do this, you're gonna regain that 10 pounds you just lost. Trainers can take one or the other perspective, positive or negative, when they're trying to motivate someone. But you'll think of those things, like whether it's a trainer, a nutritionist, your mom, your dad, your sister, your super skinny best friend, you feel that someone would judge you for that decision or would tell you that that's not appropriate for you. The good news about that is we're all adults, right? Well, most people watching this are probably adults because there aren't too many kids on Facebook anymore. It's kind of not where kids hang out anymore. It's for old people. But, we're all adults and we get to make our own decisions. That doesn't mean that we're not influenced by what other people think is good for us. And whether people are directly telling us what's good for us or not, we might still get the feeling of, I shouldn't do this because this person would be disappointed in me. And this is a big hurdle to overcome, right? But it creates that desire, right? Well, this person thinks I shouldn't do this, so I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. And even if you don't have like a rebellious bone in your body, you might get the feeling of, I'm going to do it anyway. I feel like doing it. I had a bad day. Those sorts of things. So when people tell you not to, whether it's explicit or implied, you may decide that it's something you desire to do. What else creates desire? And this is an interesting one. So what else would create desire for you? If you have thoughts about this when it comes to food, if you have thoughts about this, I'd love to hear your comments. So we talked a little bit about, whether it's good or bad. There's some feeling of illicitness, like it's going to create bad situations for you, either physically or otherwise. And then we talked about people telling you what to do. Another thing that might be creating desire for you when it comes to food is this feeling that you deserve it. Do you feel like you deserve food? And this is a really challenging one as well. So for example, when I was growing up and I would get really good grades at school, which happened more often than it didn't because I was a good student, my father would treat me to a Dairy Queen Blizzard. And it became a habit, and it became oh, I did really well in school. I got an A on my test. I deserve a Blizzard. And that mentality followed me for quite a few years, and it took me a while to break me of that. Even if I didn't end up getting a Blizzard, I ended up getting a treat of some sort. So I created that mindset or that pathway in my brain of, if I do well in school, I deserve a treat. And you might have that feeling as well. That created a desire in me. It was an automatic response to any time I did well in school. Sometimes it even gravitated beyond that. Sometimes it was not, I did well in school, but maybe I did well at my job. Like I got praise for achieving something at work. Maybe I got a promotion. I deserve a treat. Whether that's going to a restaurant, having a extra special dessert, or getting something on the way home from work. You create those feelings in your head of, I deserve this. Another situation that might come up for you that creates desire might be that you worked extremely hard in the gym or in a fitness sense, like perhaps you ran your first half marathon, like I'm trying to do in July. I'm going to do in July. Maybe you have an extremely long sweat session at your gym or in your home, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. You're like, I deserve to have a full big lunch because I worked hard. Now that's a really tough situation to put yourself into. You challenge your body physically for various reasons. Some of them might have to do with weight loss and fat loss. Some of them might have to do with stress relief. So does that really mean that you deserve to fill yourself with food when you're done? Maybe, maybe not. Certainly there's an aspect of refueling, but that's creating a desire in your head, right? That's saying, well, I deserve something, and something meaning food, because of the kind of effort I put into something else. What this creates is a type of avalanche effect where every time you do really well in that aspect of your life, you treat yourself. And if you're treating yourself with food more often than not, you're creating that desire and that expectation, if you will, that that's the way you treat yourself. So those are some different scenarios that I thought of just off the top of my head that can create desire. And if you have other thoughts that create desire for you when it comes to food, I would really love to hear them, because I don't have all the answers. I certainly don't pretend to, but these are things that come up in conversations I have with clients. These are things that I'm noticing that I personally have experienced, and I would really love to hear if I've missed anything, because I might have, and it's possible. So if that's your desire for food and you have these very big challenges around how not to have that desire around food, first of all, anytime you start a health program, find a way to still incorporate those aspects of desire into your life. Yes, it's okay to desire food. It's okay to desire food for reasons that have nothing to do with hunger. And that's the cornerstone of all my programs is, yes, there will be times when you eat for fuel and for nutrition and to refuel, but there are times when you're going to eat for other reasons as well, and that's okay. We're all about creating balance in my programs and my health coaching, and we don't create balance by pretending that those other situations don't exist. They do exist. And what your particular situation looks like is different depending on what you're dealing with. But we don't want to pretend those don't exist, because when we pretend those situations don't exist, it creates deprivation. And that's where it's important to establish a coaching relationship with someone, because you may not be aware of where your desires come from or how your desires are activated. And that's what I do as a coach, is I help bring those out into the light of day so that we can determine, okay, how do we create a situation where we replace them or substitute them or still allow you to experience those desires, but not in a deprivation sense. And most diets fail to do this. Most programs fail to do this. They might say, so for example, if you're like, well, I deserve a cupcake and I worked really hard today and I really love cupcakes, and someone is telling me not to eat them because it's not approved on my program. I can't eat sugar, I can't eat gluten, I can't eat dairy, whatever. If you have all those things working against you and you know that those are the desires you have, then you're going to set yourself up for deprivation. You're going to feel like I can never again enjoy myself and I have to wait until someday where I achieve what I want physically, and then I can get back to what I desire. So we know that deprivation doesn't work. We know that deprivation is denying what's important to you and what motivates you, both in terms of food and how you perceive food and what role food plays in your life. It's really important to understand what role food plays in your life. I know that when I'm stressed and when I'm sick, I want to turn to food. And of course, not broccoli and kale, which I almost never eat, by the way. But it creates desire for foods that are salty and crunchy and easy to eat and readily available at any gas station or grocery store. Those are the kinds of foods that I turn to. For you, it might be different types of foods, but you know that certain situations will create that desire for you. And denying that desire is going to create deprivation. So how then do we diminish desire? We talked a little bit about substituting, replacing, still indulging your desire. What does that mean? How do you indulge your desire in a safe manner? There's certainly ways you can do that while still achieving your health goals. And again, this is going to depend very much on your personality and what triggers you and what motivates you. But for example, if you really want a cupcake, and I keep bringing up cupcakes for some reason, I'm not sure why, but it just is sticking in my head right now. So suppose you have a craving for a cupcake and you're like, I really want to have a cupcake. What you can do is find a different way to cook a cupcake. You can find a different way to purchase a cupcake that's on a smaller scale than you would typically have. You could, so again, you could substitute with a healthier version of a cupcake. You could replace with a smaller piece of cupcake. Or you can find something else that will satisfy that craving for a cupcake. And again, like everyone eats differently and everyone has a different experience when they're eating. So I don't know what that might look like for you. But if what you're craving from the cupcake is the mouthfeel, like the frosting, the softness of the cupcake, the crumb of the cupcake, you can certainly find something that will give you that same satisfaction, but is not a cupcake. And that's a tricky thing. Some of it's going to take trial and error. Some of it's going to take trying things out and then seeing how it goes. And you might get to a place where you're like, well, nothing is satisfying my desire for that cupcake except for a cupcake. And then that's when you look at the smaller size cupcakes, like the mini cupcakes, or only getting one, or buying one, cutting it in half, and then putting the other half away where you can't see it. There are definitely many tricks you can use that can kind of shortchange that, but still allow you to satisfy your desire. What are some other things? A lot of the things I walk people through is not how to eliminate, but how to add. What does that mean? What does it mean to not eliminate, but add, and how does that help you reach your health goals? So for example, if you don't go into a program with a thought of, I can never again eat mac and cheese, never again. It's got gluten, it's got cheese, it's got high fat, high everything, no fiber. If you go into a program thinking that, you're going to be sad, right? When you can't have that item, you're going to feel like, oh my God, this is the worst program ever. And I can't wait until day 31 when I can stop taking this program. Where was I going with this? Diminished desire. Diminished desire. Okay, so you can still indulge that feeling of what you want to get out of it, but you can also approach it from I'm going to meet it halfway, whether you have a smaller portion of it or not. And I feel like I was going somewhere else with that conversation. So I'm going to let that sit for a few minutes. If you're watching this, say hi in the comments, even if you're watching the replay, and let me know what's coming up for you. How do you create diminished desire in your life? Now, we talked a little bit about substitution, replacements, and let's talk about non-food options. I don't know about you, but the least satisfying thing I've ever heard from anyone in my life is when they say, "Oh, so you want a brownie? Okay. Why don't you go exercise for 45 minutes instead, and that's going to make you change your mind about wanting that brownie." Delaying your gratification can be helpful. I have certainly done this in the past. But if you're really craving a brownie and after that 45-minute walk, you still are craving the brownie, then the walk is probably not a good substitute for that. I used to see some of these magazines that are like, "Oh, you want a 20-ounce soda of cherry Coke? Okay, then just have a glass of water." Chances are good that water is not going to satisfy whatever it is you were looking for from that sweet, sugary soda. So, be cautious with what you're choosing as your replacements. However, I will say that delaying gratification can be helpful in terms of diminishing your desire. And here's what I mean by delayed gratification. I don't mean that you don't ever do it. I mean that if you have a certain craving in the moment and you're like, "I just really want a double bacon cheeseburger right now," and you just ate. So you're not physically hungry. You're like, "I just ate, but I have a desire for this." One thing you could do is take a moment, drink a glass of water. I know that water's not going to taste anything like a double bacon cheeseburger, but you could drink a glass of water and sit for 15 or 20 minutes. You don't even have to sit still. This is not a meditation. You can go for a walk. You can go about your life, whatever it is you're doing in life, work, hanging out with the kids, do whatever you want to do. Don't be still during that time. It's not just sit and think of your feelings. That's not how it works, because the more you think, the more you're going to desire that darn cheeseburger. Believe me, I've been there. But you delay it. So you put a time on it. You say, "Okay, I do want that bacon double cheeseburger, but I'm going to sit for 30 minutes and again, not sit still, but I'm going to just wait for 30 minutes and see what happens after that time." And in the meanwhile, keep your hands busy. Hand to mouth is a very powerful reaction and a very automatic reaction that many of us have, especially if we're prone to overeating. So if you delay that, it doesn't even have to be 30 minutes. Say, "Okay, in 15 minutes, I'm going to think about this again." You might forget about it in 15 minutes. Honestly, depending on where the craving is coming from and how strong it is. So if you're driving in your car and you're passing by a Burger King and you're like, "I want a bacon double cheeseburger," just pass by that Burger King and say, "Okay, 15 minutes from now, I'll be at home, and if I really want it, then I'll go get it." What are the chances that you're going to go back to that Burger King after you've gotten home and go get that bacon double cheeseburger? Pretty less. So that tactic works, especially if you're a person who tends to do a lot of mindless eating or eating for taste. I ate for taste a lot. I ate because I wanted to experience the sensations in my mouth. And that's a really helpful tip, especially if you're a fast eater. We talked today about a lot of things. We talked about desire, what creates desire for certain foods in your life. And I mentioned 3 different ways that you might be creating desire for food, or that might be creating desire in you. And I would love to hear your thoughts if you have something to add to that. We also talked about deprivation and what actually leads to deprivation. It's when we don't satisfy that desire. And again, this is not about never satisfying our desires. It's about finding ways to diminish that desire. And when people work with me, they tend to experience diminished desire for certain things that they really loved before, whether it's alcohol, whether it's certain foods, whether it's certain quantities of foods. They rethink their desire for it. And when I say rethink, I don't mean they're actually in their head and thinking, because we tend to sabotage ourselves when we do that, but they create different habits that support replacing, substituting, or delaying that gratification until they recognize that gratification for what it is. Is that really what they want? Sometimes we feel like we want food when what we want is love. Or sometimes we feel like we want food when what we need is a stress relief activity. And until you get very practiced at this and try things out, you're not going to experience that. You're not going to understand that for what it is. It took me over a year to understand those things, and I'm still learning things about myself in terms of what creates desire for me. I love to walk people through this process. Whether it's private coaching with me, I do accept 1 or 2 private coaching clients during the summertime. I have a smaller schedule during the summertime so I can enjoy it with my kids. But I do accept private clients from time to time. So if that's something that you're like, I need that type of support, I need somebody who can walk me through that and help diminish my desire for these foods that have become habits for me. It's really hard to remove your habits until you have someone to support you in the right way you need to be supported. I also, I'm totally anti-deprivation, so nothing I do is going to say you can't do this or you can't do that. I don't have any forbidden foods on any of my plans. The only time a food is forbidden is if it creates allergies or intolerances in you, and I have plenty of referral partners I can refer you out to determine if that's what's going on for you personally. I don't personally do that type of dietary testing, but I do support people who have those types of concerns. I don't have any more group coaching programs going on right now, but I can also support you with meal plans. So sometimes, and I mentioned that sometimes you have to find substitutes, right? Like healthier replacements, smaller quantities. A lot of my meal plans incorporate these things naturally, like intuitively. So I am having a special discount on my meal plans right now. I offer both weekly and monthly meal plans. If you're interested in taking part in those reduced prices, it's only through Friday, May 17th. Yeah, Friday, May 17th, I will be offering half off all of my meal plans. And I understand a meal plan is not going to create diminished desire for you, but it's going to expose you to different substitutes and ways of thinking about food, maybe different from the recipes you're used to providing for your family. And these meal plans include breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. They're for an entire week, if not an entire month. Special discount code half off if you want to grab those. The weekly ones are typically $14, reduced to $7 for just this week. And my monthly meal plan typically runs about $50. I don't actually have a link to that. If you're interested in the monthly meal plan, let me know. I will honor the half off for that as well. So typically $50, you can get it for $25. I will drop the link for those reduced price meal plans if you want to grab one or all 3 of them. I have standard, which is no restrictions. I have gluten-free and I have vegetarian already on my site. And if you want a custom option, that is also something I can offer. You do need to pay before Friday, and then we can schedule a phone call to create that plan for you. Those are some ways I can support you right now, no matter where you are. And if you feel like maybe you might be a good candidate for private coaching, where I can walk you through how to diminish desire in a very easy, that doesn't feel like deprivation, like I've been doing with my clients thus far, my very happy, satisfied clients, then I would love to have a conversation with you about private coaching and what that might look like. And even if private coaching is not a fit for you, you can still walk away with some really good tips that you can implement right now. That is a free phone call. I call it a weight loss breakthrough. So I will pop the link to schedule that phone call if you're interested. And I love to connect with you. So let me know, was this video today helpful for you? If you feel it was really helpful, then please share it with your friends and family and anyone who may benefit from this. And don't forget to comment below and let me know. In the meanwhile, don't forget to grab your half off meal plans. It's a very special treat that I'm offering to those in my community. So thank you for watching me and for grabbing those discounted meal plans. In the meanwhile, have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.